Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to learn something new.
Well, today we're tackling a topic a lot of you have been asking about: second marriages.
And more specifically,
Specifically, the role purpose plays in making those marriages work.
got it. I think we've got just the source for this.
You bet. We're heading straight to Chapter 3 of Second Marriages: Why 40% Succeed and 60% Don't.
Okay, so what kind of insights are we hoping to unearth?
We're going to see what makes those successful relationships tick and what role purpose plays in all of it.
All right, sounds good to me. Where do we even start?
Well, the book opens with some pretty striking imagery that really gets you thinking.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like picturing a boxer, totally battered and bruised, but refusing to give up.
Okay, I can see that. A real fighter spirit.
Or someone struggling with their weight, pushing themselves to go for a 3-kilometer walk every single day.
Wow, so what's the common thread there? It sounds like sheer willpower.
It does, doesn't it? But the book suggests it's something even deeper driving them.
Deeper. You mean like a sense of purpose?
Exactly. The book argues that purpose is what fuels their actions, their why.
That's interesting. So it's not just about physical stuff, but like a mindset that applies to everything.
That's exactly right. And it's especially crucial in relationships, especially second marriages.
So the book is saying finding your purpose is key to a successful second marriage. Makes sense.
Yeah, and it goes a step further, saying you need to figure that purpose out before you jump into a relationship.
Oh, before. Why so important?
Well, the book warns against what it calls parasitic relationships.
Parasitic. That sounds a little harsh. What does that even mean?
Means one person is purpose-driven while the other is kind of lost, lacking direction.
So it's like one person's carrying all the weight, pushing the other to change and grow.
Exactly. It leads to an unequal effort, and the purpose-driven one ends up feeling drained.
Like they're being taken advantage of. Makes sense.
And the book says this lack of individual purpose makes the relationship itself directionless.
Kind of like a ship without a rudder, just drifting around aimlessly.
Perfect analogy. And it's easy to fall into that trap, especially in a second marriage.
Oh, how so?
Well, you might be so focused on avoiding past mistakes that you forget about your own growth.
Right, trying not to repeat the same patterns. But you have to grow as individuals, too.
That's what the book argues. It's not just about dodging those pitfalls, but about actively cultivating a purposeful life.
Both individually and as a couple. I like that. It's like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if a lack of purpose might be behind some of the problems people face in second marriages.
That's a good question. Do you think that's what the book is getting at?
I think so. It seems to be a recurring theme. And it's not just about avoiding negative outcomes, but achieving something more.
More. Like what?
Like a deeper sense of fulfillment, bringing your whole authentic self to the relationship.
Oh, yeah. When you know yourself and your passions, that's when you can truly shine.
Exactly. And the book says that genuine self-expression usually earns respect.
Respect from your partner, but also from other people in your life.
Right. There's something magnetic about someone who's living their purpose.
It's like they radiate confidence without even trying.
So true. And you know what? The book uses a pretty surprising example to illustrate this.
Oh, really? Spill the beans? What is it?
The story of Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. Wow. Okay. Didn't see that coming. What's the connection there?
Well, the book points out that Adam was already living his purpose, tending the garden, before Eve even showed up.
Huh. You know what? I never thought of it that way.
Right. And the book interprets this as a message that your purpose isn't dependent on a partner. It exists on its own.
So it's saying you shouldn't be searching for someone to complete you.
Exactly. It's more like two whole people coming together to create something even greater.
I like that a lot. Building on each other's strengths, but not depending on each other for your own sense of purpose.
And that leads perfectly into the next big point the book makes.
Which is?
The dangers of getting married for the wrong reasons.
Oh, yeah, like being afraid of ending up alone or caving to societal pressure.
You got it. Or even just wanting to escape a bad situation.
Right, using marriage as a band-aid.
And the book explores how those motivations can sabotage a relationship right from the start.
Especially if you're in that desperation mode, you might miss some red flags.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes you settle for less than you deserve.
It's like you're so focused on finding anyone that you forget what a healthy relationship should look like.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that a relationship should enhance your life, not just fix it.
Right. True fulfillment comes from within, from aligning your life with your purpose and your values.
This is giving me so much to think about already, especially that idea of purpose being so central to a successful second marriage.
It really is a game changer, isn't it? And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, I know. I'm already hooked. And I'm really eager to dive into how all this plays out in the everyday reality of marriage.
Me too. Stay tuned, because in part 2, we're going to tackle just that. So you're curious about how this whole purpose thing plays out in everyday married life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Does the book get into those day-to-day details?
Oh, it does. And it acknowledges that real life, well, it's not always sunshine and roses.
That's good to hear. I was wondering about that. Some of these self-help books can feel a little too idealistic.
Right, like they're glossing over the tough stuff. But this one's pretty grounded. It even compares conflict in a relationship to two porcupines trying to huddle together.
Porcupines. Okay, that's a new one.
Right. They want to be close for warmth, but gotta be careful of those quills.
I get it, that tension between intimacy and protecting yourself. So how does purpose help with those prickly moments?
Well, the book says when both people have a strong sense of purpose, they're less likely to view each other as the enemy.
Because they're both working towards a common goal, even if they disagree on how to get there.
Exactly. It's like having a shared compass, even when you're arguing about which path to take.
Instead of getting stuck on who's right or wrong, you can focus on solutions that align with your values.
Yeah, it's about collaborating, not competing. And the book applies this to other areas too, like finances.
Oh, finances are definitely a hot topic in relationships. How does purpose play into that?
Well, instead of just splitting bills or having separate accounts, the book suggests talking about your shared financial goals.
Figuring out what you're both working towards, what your priorities are.
Exactly. And then figuring out how to use your money to achieve those dreams together.
That's interesting. It's not just about being practical. It's like creating a shared financial vision.
Right. It's aligned with your purpose as a couple. And then there's the whole blended family situation.
Oh, yeah, that can be a minefield. How does purpose help with that?
The book says it's key to creating a sense of unity, like figuring out what kind of home you want to create together.
Talking about shared values, traditions you want to keep, new rituals you can create as a blended family.
All right, it's not just merging two families, it's building something new. And purpose helps with the challenges that come with that.
Like step parenting and dealing with all those different personalities and dynamics.
Yeah, it's a process. And the book also emphasizes the importance of self-care during that transition.
Oh, that's so important. It's easy to get caught up in trying to make everyone else happy and forget about yourself.
Exactly. And that can lead to resentment and burnout. The book has some practical tips for self-care, even when life's hectic.
Like what?
Scheduling date nights, finding hobbies that bring you joy, even just taking a few minutes each day to just be.
I like that because taking care of yourself is not selfish. It helps you be a better partner and parent.
Right, you can't pour from an empty cup. And speaking of filling your cup, that leads into another key point.
Which is?
Nurturing your own individual purpose within the marriage.
Oh, so it's not about losing yourself in the relationship.
No, it's about two individuals creating a shared life, but still honoring their own passions and gifts.
Because sometimes you can lose sight of who you are when you're so focused on being a partner or parent.
Absolutely. So the book encourages open conversations about dreams and aspirations.
So each partner feels seen and heard and supported.
Exactly. And that support can go beyond just words. It can be practical too.
Like helping each other achieve those goals, maybe watching the kids so your partner can work on a project or something.
Right. Showing your commitment through actions. And when both partners feel supported, it creates a positive cycle.
They bring that energy and fulfillment back into the relationship.
Making it more dynamic and inspiring for both of them. But of course, this purpose-driven life isn't always easy.
I imagine there are sacrifices and compromises along the way.
Definitely. But when you're committed to purpose, those sacrifices feel more like investments in something bigger.
It's not about getting your own way all the time, but about making choices that align with your shared goals.
And those sacrifices can actually be bonding for a couple.
Because you're showing your love through action by putting each other's needs first.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point, celebrating each other's successes along the way.
It's easy to forget to do that when you're caught up in the daily grind.
Right, to acknowledge those moments of growth and achievement. So the book encourages couples to be each other's cheerleaders.
To celebrate those milestones, big or small, and really show your appreciation.
Yeah, because those celebrations strengthen the bond and remind you that you're on this journey together.
It's about adding those moments of joy and recognition to the everyday flow of life.
Exactly. And then there's the idea of finding shared experiences that align with your purpose as a couple.
Oh, like hobbies or volunteer work that you both enjoy and that reflect your values.
Right, it's about connecting on a deeper level and making a difference together. And it doesn't have to be something grand.
It could be as simple as starting a garden or taking a class.
The important thing is that it's meaningful to both of you. And all of this brings us back to that core message.
The power of living a purpose-driven life, both individually and as a couple.
Exactly. It's not just about building a marriage, it's about creating a legacy.
That's powerful. So it's about using your relationship to make a positive impact on the world.
Right, and it doesn't have to be some huge gesture. It can be those small acts of kindness and service that ripple outward.
This has been so inspiring. It feels like a whole new way of looking at marriage, especially a second marriage.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself, AND, finding someone who complements that journey.
And then creating a life together that's about more than just yourselves. It's about making a difference.
Exactly. And I think we have time for one more important topic before we move on.
Okay, what's that?
The book talks about embracing the single again season.
Oh, yeah, I was curious about that because sometimes after divorce, people feel like they need to find someone new right away.
Right, like there's this pressure to jump back into a relationship, but the book says to resist that urge.
And instead, use that time for self-discovery and healing.
Exactly. It's about getting to know yourself again, healing from past hurts, and figuring out what you really want.
So it's like hitting the reset button, a chance to figure out who you are outside of a relationship.
Right, because a healthy relationship starts with two whole individuals. And sometimes that wholeness requires time alone.
Especially after a divorce, there's probably a lot to process and learn from.
The book has some suggestions for making the most of that time, like seeking support from friends and family.
Doing things that bring you joy, taking care of your well-being.
It's about using that time to rebuild a strong foundation for future relationships.
And remembering that being single isn't a failure, it's a chance for growth and transformation.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to prepare for a future relationship that's healthy and aligned with what God wants for you.
This is so encouraging. It's a reminder that even after heartbreak, God can use those experiences to shape us for something better.
Absolutely. And I think that message of hope is especially important for people going into a second marriage.
It's about believing that God can heal those wounds and create something new and beautiful.
Exactly. So embrace that single again season and use it to grow and prepare for an amazing future.
Wow, it's amazing how much we've covered. We started with that boxer and the walker, then talked about those parasitic relationships.
Yeah, and we even got into the nitty-gritty of finances and blended families.
And it all comes back to purpose, not just for ourselves, but for the marriage to work. It's a whole different way of looking at things.
It is, isn't it? It's like shifting from marriage being the goal to it being this shared journey.
Right. And I like how the book doesn't sugarcoat things. It admits that second marriages come with their own
Oh,
baggage.
absolutely. Past hurts, blended families, societal pressures, you name it. But it gives you hope and a way to deal with all that.
Speaking of hope, divorce can be so tough. Is it even possible to approach a second marriage with optimism? How does the book handle that?
Well, it emphasizes forgiveness, forgiving yourself and your ex.
That makes sense. Holding on to resentment just keeps you stuck in the past.
Exactly. It keeps you from moving on. The book says it's about recognizing that everyone messes up, we all make mistakes.
And that sometimes pain is part of growing. Letting go of the hurt makes space for healing and new beginnings.
Right. And it's not about saying what happened was okay. It's about releasing yourself from that burden.
It's like making room for something better.
Yeah, creating space for new love and joy. And you know what? The book says forgiveness can actually make you a better partner.
Oh, how so?
Well, when you're not weighed down by all that baggage, you can be more authentic and vulnerable.
That reminds me of that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to heal and refill yourself first.
Exactly. And the book encourages you to think of that filling your cup time as preparation for a successful marriage.
Taking care of yourself, pursuing your passions, strengthening your faith.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself, not for someone else, but for you.
And I bet when you do that, you're more likely to attract someone who's also on that same path.
You're right. It's not about finding someone to complete you, but someone who complements you. challenges you, supports you.
So you both grow and become even better together.
And when that happens, the book says you can become a real force for good.
Like your relationship becomes about more than just the two of you.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a shared vision, and that can inspire others too. This has been so eye-opening, a whole new way of thinking about second marriages.
It really is. It's not just finding the right person. It's becoming the right person
Yeah.
and building a relationship on purpose.
And mutual respect, a shared commitment to making a difference. There are so many practical tips in the book too. I highly recommend checking it out.
I definitely will, and I hope our listeners do too.
Me too. Just remember, finding your purpose and building a fulfilling relationship, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the way.
But with effort and a willingness to learn, you can create something truly amazing.
And don't forget to celebrate each other's successes along the way.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Yes, thanks for listening. Keep exploring, and remember, you have the power to write your own extraordinary love story.